It's not about the revenue. It's not about being a $6 million company, or you do this. It's your demonstrated ability to borrow and pay. But if you're not set up correctly, what a huge missed opportunity.
Yep.
Hey guys, welcome back to GrindWise. I'm Erle, and as always, I'm sitting here with my partner, Brent. Today is a great episode, especially if you are an owner-operator in trucking and transport. You're in that arena. You're not going to want to miss what we have to talk about today, because it's going to be a special GrindWise designed just for you. Brent, how you doing?
I'm good. You know, I kind of find it interesting since you moved here, and now I don't miss a fight night.
Right? That was crazy last night.
Tell us about your son. What's happening with him?
Well, my wee one, all 6'2", 245 pounds of him, is fighting again on September 6th for the WFL World Fight League. It's a huge deal for the Amateur Heavyweight Championship of the world.
Wow, that's awesome. So that will that make him pro after he wins that?
Yeah, after he goes in and wins that. I mean, any given Sunday, these heavyweights, it's tough, you know.
There were some good fights last night.
Some of them were. Yeah. Some of them were kind of like, really?
Right.
I'm up. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm still watching this. Call it what it is. I mean, from a technical aspect, the Duplessis fight, he won the fight. Not Duplessis, but wow.
Yeah.
Kamzat just worked him. I mean, fought his game, and what are you going to do? No defense.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting to watch. Well, I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited about this episode today because I've owned some kind of a trucking company for 25 years. So I'm very excited. I love the research you did. You know, it takes me back to all those pain points. I feel like at the end of this, we should definitely give people some tips and tricks and things. So
let's do it.
Let's do it. All
right. So, like always, you know how I am. I'm like a squirrel when it comes to a topic. We said, let's do something for the people in trucking, transportation, the owner-operators, the independents. You know, I don't even know all the taglines for it. You rattle them off left and right. But you said, let's do it. And I said, great, let's go do the research. So what I did, and this is kind of an interesting one, because I don't typically give Brent a little feed on what we're going to talk about. I usually try to hit him cold, or he does me. But I pulled up some of the top pain points that people in that industry right now are facing today, and you've had a chance to review them. Would you say that the list is touching on a lot of the good stuff? I mean, not good stuff being a pain point, but are we hitting the markers? Was my research good?
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So obviously you guys know that we're probably a little bit, I don't know. We got our ideas on how things are going to do. We have the tryturing thing, and we want to talk today about how that will tie into, nailing some of these pain points to the wall. But again, we're kind of partial, but think about all the things that we talk about today from the aspect of where you sit in business today, as Brent goes in and we kind of talk about these things and how we can solve them. But Brent, just for the people that may not have seen this before, talk a little bit about your trucking company.
The most recent one I had did $6 million in revenue in 1 year. It was a 15-year-old company. I operated in 4 states, had 120 plus employees.
Whew.
Yeah, a lot of trucks on the road every single day. What led me to figuring out the business and corporate credit was at a $6 million, 15-year-old company, I was still having to personal guarantee everything. And so I actually pulled the credit profile on my trucking company after I sold it, and the recommendation of credit on it was only $7,600. And what I figured out was 95% of lenders don't report. I had a fuel card that I paid, I don't know, $2 million, $2.5 million a year to, and they report. But guess what? I didn't have credit profiles.
Oh no.
Yeah. So they couldn't report.
So they do, the one you were using actually does report, but you didn't have any credit profiles. You weren't set up with D&B, Experian, Equifax business.
I had weird enough, I had an Experian profile. That's where I found my credit profile at, and the 7,600, and it said I was a paid television subscription company out of Florida, and I've never been in Florida business ever. I was doing 1.3 million in sales. I had 7 employees, and it had 5 other addresses for my business on it.
But back up. So you're doing $6 million a year in a truck company. You got hundreds of employees. You're all over the place, right?
Yep.
$6 million a year. You're spending over $2 million on fuel. And you qualify for how much again in credit?
7,600.
Oh, you've arrived. I mean,
Right?
You're clearly set.
Well, funny enough, I went to my bank where they saw the money coming in, going out, all the bills being paid, and they said I went to get $100,000 line of credit, and I was like, I just need $100,000 line of credit. We're gearing up for our busy season, and they simply looked at everything, and I met with the bank here is from here in Tulsa, and they have a division in Dallas that works with businesses, and got on a Zoom call for probably first time I ever was on a Zoom call with somebody years ago, and
did you wear a suit?
No, I was a trucker. So I'm sitting there in a conference room with the big TV guys on the TV, and we're going through everything. He goes, "You don't have any credit." I said, what do you mean? I pay my bills. You guys see all the money. I just need 100. Right. I have over 100 deposited every week in my account. Well, I don't understand. And they just said, we can't do it because you don't have any credit. Well, then I said, okay, what about a personal line of credit?
Oh,
and they said, yeah, sure.
Bet.
Give us your W-2s. And I was like, I do member draws.
Okay. So when I did the research, and it's funny that because this isn't scripted, right?
Right.
When we're just naturally having a conversation here. But Brent, when I did the research, the number one thing, and you guys know this, right? If you're watching this right now, you're going, yep. The number one pain point in that industry is fuel volatility.
Yep.
And what a nightmare, because you're spending that much money. What an opportunity to build credit.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, having a fuel card that reports, the fuel volatility is, something people really have to look at. Whenever we would do some over the road stuff, we ran a hot shop business alongside of our other trucking company, which is his local delivery stuff. But we would avoid certain states because we knew our margins would come down by the fuel. And if we went out those states, we had to make sure that we got enough in freight in what we charged. And that's another pain point on there as well is the volatility and the rates for hauling the freight.
That's gotta be insane. Cause I know, like, coming from Washington, I have a diesel pickup truck up there. It was $4.99 a gallon.
Yep.
I get down to Texas, it was like $3.12 a gallon. Here in Oklahoma, it's like $3.90, $3.70 a gallon. Just that whole mapping and tracking side of it, that had to be a major impact on your business. Probably didn't even want to take certain.
Yep. We want to avoid certain areas for sure. I mean, even if it meant, going a different route just to avoid a state, as long as you could calculate out that, hey, I'm going to save, $500 by not going through this state, then, and I had to add mileage on or whatever. But yeah, that was one thing I did not like, was dealing with the fuel volatility. And then, so we as business owners never want to raise the price on our customers.
No, gosh, no.
So
yeah, we think we'll lose them.
The fuel and the freight, low freight margins and all.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. That's in here too.
Those go hand in hand. Okay. Because if you book a load today and fuel and diesel's $3.79 a gallon, and you're like, I'm going to make $500 this week on that load, and then you leave today and now all of a sudden fuel went up to $4.25.
Oh,
you have nothing you can do. And these guys, these owner operators, a lot of times they have to stay on the road for 2 to 3 weeks at a time without seeing their family, without coming home, in order to get ahead.
That's nuts. So when you're thinking about it, right? And again, we have solutions for people. That's why we built the company that we built. That's why we talk about this all the time. Today, we're talking about, owner operators, independents out there that are in this thing. Maybe they're doing hot shots. Maybe they own a trucking company itself. But earlier, you said you spent $2 million a year on fuel, roughly, for a $6 million company. That's a third of your dollars going out is going back to fuel. And then, of course, you have employees on top of it. But what kind of impact would that have had if you were using just fuel cards that actually report to credit, but you were set up to have people report?
Oh, I would have had, I mean, when I walked into that bank, they would have more than likely offered me 5 times what I was asking for instead of telling me no.
Yeah. And I think that's lost on people. And this is, one of the things that we talk about all the time is it's not about the revenue. It's not about being a $6 million company or you do this. It's your demonstrated ability to borrow and pay. But if you're not set up correctly, what a huge missed opportunity.
Yep. Yeah. I had 110 iPads with service. I had, probably 30 cell phones, and that and one other item are the only 2 things that were reporting on my credit bureau.
I don't know. We get into this balance sheet. I bet it was at the end of the day, you made $5, but
right.
Well, let's move on. So we're talking about this, and these are the things. Like if you're watching this right now, you're probably nodding your head and going, "Yep, yeah, preaching to the choir." Well, let's preach to the choir just a little bit more because those trucks don't always operate perfectly, right? There's some maintenance things that may come into play there.
Yeah. So I always go back to my construction company. When we were running the construction company, we had equipment where things break and you're $200,000, out the door just because something broke. It was a wearable, right? And when we stopped doing the construction, I went selling insurance, and I told my wife, I said, I love this because if my pen runs out of ink, it's 99 cents. If my computer quits, it's the biggest expense I have. It's $1,000 or $500 or whatever. Right. And I've always, like I said, owned trucking companies. While I was insurance, I had a 1 truck operation where I would go haul freight here and there with a trailer. I maintained my truck, took care of my truck. But whenever I had that $6 million company, we had mechanics at all locations. We had, and it wasn't when we needed something done, it needed done because that truck needed to be moving. I can't tell you how many trucking companies I talked to that they literally start, they're a year in and their truck breaks down and it's 20, 30 grand. And they're like, I can't afford that. And so now they're working for somebody else while trying to save the money to pay for their truck to get out of the shop.
So, and I know the aftermath because I've seen your tool collection and all the individual boxes you used to haul. All of these boxes everywhere. You had them loaded, ready to rock and roll at any given time because you don't like paying mechanics. Right? I don't think so.
Well, yeah, I had a beautiful truck. I kind of wish I still had it, but it had a shell on it. I had strobe lights. I mean, people got over. It was like almost like an ambulance, but it was a 3/4 ton lifted Chevy pickup. I loved it. I had all my tools. I could be anywhere. See somebody broke down on the side of the road. Sometimes I was like, I could stop and fix that in like 2 seconds and they're going to be there for 4 hours. I'd do that occasionally, but
right.
Cause I have floor jack and everything in the truck, but.
Okay. So if you guys are watching this right now, I want you to hang on because towards the end here, we're actually going to give you some real practical tips and hacks that you can use in your business. So stay with us. We're gonna nail some more of these pain points to the wall today. But we talked about fuel, we talked about maintenance. Those are both huge expenses. We know that if people are a tryturing member, we have all the fuel cards already in there. We know who they report to. We know how often they report, what tiers they report in. So that's a really cool opportunity to start building credit. But when it comes to like the maintenance side of things, I mean, well, how do we parlay that out of tryturing?
This is how, let me tell you how not to do it. And then I'll tell you how to do it. So don't do it like I did, where you write a check or you use your company debit card to pay your mechanic bill or your personal credit card. Get a business credit card that actually reports. And if the bill's $10,000, you only have an $8,000 limit, put $8,000 on that credit card and pay the difference with either another card that reports or worst case, your debit card there, and then just pay the bill. You're not adding anything if you pay it the same month. So you get that business credit card that actually reports. Now you showed, if it's like I said, $8,000 a card, you just showed your demonstrated ability to borrow and pay $8,000 in 1 month.
Now, if I'm sitting here watching this, I'm looking at you going, yeah, that's all cool, Brent, but how the hell do I know what card reports? I don't have time to do that kind of research.
Well, that's we did all the research inside tryturing. There's tons of cards, there's tons of tools in there. It is hard to find. we all know, everybody who watches me knows Amex Business doesn't report. People get so excited when they're like, I got my first Amex Business credit card. It doesn't report.
It's kind of leading when they call it Amex Business card. There is an Amex that does report
the corporate card,
right? But there's some serious precursors to even get it.
Yeah, 100%. You have to be. I've seen a couple of $2 million companies get it, but they want you to be doing $4 million in revenue, and you have to be at top tier credit. So, explain this to me.
Okay,
Amex Business card. Mm-hmm. You go out and get it. You're a good steward of your finances. You're doing $4 million a year. That's the only card you use. Okay. You build credit, right? Nope. You can't get their corporate card because you didn't build credit.
That's just dumb.
It's they're not going to help you get there, but they're going to welcome you when you do.
Right. I don't know. This is all hedge your bets, and it doesn't seem right. I mean, you could literally use that Amex Business, spend millions of dollars a year, and you pay all your bills. Why wouldn't they want to roll you up into it? Is it better rates on that card? Is it more benefits, or do you have to pay annually to even have that card?
So the corporate card works more like a corporate line of credit. That's why it's so hard to get. You can actually pull money out of it. So, give you an example, if you had a $500,000 monthly limit, you could pull the whole $500,000 out,
right,
and use that to pay your bills. You don't have to do that. Just pull it out, put it back 10 days later, and now you're just demonstrating your ability to borrow and pay.
So this is going to be kind of a fun one, and I'll tell you a quick little ditty. And you've been telling me to do this for a long time. Finally did it. For years, we've had the same insurance company. I mean, we've been paying them for years. It feels like eons. And I keep saying to my wife, I'm like, we're paying too much. And you're saying, why don't you quote it out? And I'm like, I don't know. We're preferred customers. We're locked in, went and quoted it. Saved $1,000 a month.
Yep.
$12,000 a year for this same coverage and better, and added on some stuff. Just got that thing recorded. When you're in trucking, the number 3 pain point that came up as it relates to people in that industry, right, was insurance and premiums.
Yeah. So, it's kind of funny. As I said earlier, I sold insurance. I still carry my license. When I did the hot shot, I actually went out to try to get insurance for the hot shot, through my agent. And then I tried Progressive, which is known for trucking. It was ridiculous. It was like first year of the hot shot business was third, even though the company was a subsidiary of a bigger trucking company. It was like $30,000 for one truck and a trailer a year. And then I had that dump truck just out of my lake house. And I just wanted to insure it because I had a note on it. And it was $45,000 a year. And I was like, no.
What?
This is a farm truck. So I actually just put it on a farm policy.
Okay.
cut around that. But people don't know.
People don't know that.
People don't know that. So, what I ended up doing, because whenever you call Progressive, they're like, what do you do? And you don't really, you don't want to give them too much information. Like, you don't want to tell them, yeah, I'm going to haul everything that I can. I'll haul hazardous materials, whatever. Cause then they're just going to jack your rate up, and they're not even going to tell you why. And so what I did was I kept trying to explain to the lady with Progressive on the phone, this is what I'm doing. And she came back with a $30,000+ quote. And I said, you know what? I'm not in a hurry to get this truck on the road. The truck is insurance right now, just not as a trucking company truck, just as a regular truck. And so I got myself appointed with Progressive, and I wrote the policy, and it was $12,000 a year, and I got commission on it.
They when we canceled that policy, the lady on the other end, I'm not going to say what insurance company it was, but she literally told my wife, she goes, yeah, but this is going to take money out of our pocket. I'm like, you're taking an extra $1,000 out of our pocket every month, and it's got to be way worse on the commercial side. That's funny you said that on the dump truck. Are you hauling hazmat? I mean, I think I'd be like telling, I'm just hauling cotton balls and
right.
baby bunnies. That's it. That's all I haul. So, look, one of the advantages of tryturing is, and has always been, is our network of people that are tied to us. We have a great network. We have great coaches, consultants. Probably the cumulative effect of all the different people we're associated with, whether they work for us directly across the nation, is our ability to always know somebody from a pivot standpoint. So I'd say the big advantage on tryturing right there, again, I'm partial, but I'm just saying, we give you guys free advice over here on this and stuff that hopefully you take some notes and write them down. But you can also call us. You can also book with us, and we'll happily share that information with you. We love referring good people to good people.
Yep. 100%.
So, okay. So here's a big one. I mean, number 4, this probably isn't going to surprise you, but access to affordable financing and high interest rates, that industry that they're in, it is a nightmare to get money when you need it.
Yeah. And it's because it's volatile. And it's because, especially for a guy starting out, it's very tough to get anything. I talk to guys all the time that said that I literally bought the truck in my personal name. It's not even in my company name because I couldn't get any funding with my company that I just started. And the people, you can go to your bank and, if you pay your bills and everything, they'll loan you money for anything you want as long as they have equity in it. So people will do that instead of going out and actually doing it the correct way. Looking back now at all the businesses that I've started, I would, knowing what I know now, I would you go into this with a plan, like just like the company I have that has no revenue right now that buys vehicles on the EIN without a personal guarantee. If I would have known this 25 years ago, I would have been sitting there building credit on multiple businesses as I go along, and then use that business as a parent company to whatever business it is I'm going to operate under it.
So that's a really astute observation, but it's not too late. You didn't have to do it 25 years ago. There are options out there to where a person can actually create that pseudo layer. It's not uncommon for a primary corporation to have a division that does the transport, trucking, and things like that, and a division that maybe does the commissary side of it or brings in the retail pieces. There's companies can have multiple divisions. I mean, look at Pepsi. They have the branding, they have the marketing, they have the trucking, they have the distribution, they have the manufacturing, and there's a parent company, right?
Yep.
And it's the parent company that gets the money. Yep. Right. Hey, I need a loan for this division of my company. Yep. And the smart thing is having multiple companies, having that layering aspect. So you're protecting yourself. If something goes wrong here, it's not going to affect all of these type of things. We have solutions for that for sure. Our tryturing members get access to some pretty unique opportunities in that. And we're certainly happy to talk to them about that for sure. But it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare if you're in the industry. Everything I read, everything I study says, if you're in that arena, you might as well be selling crack because they just don't want to loan you money. Maybe it's easier to get money that way. I don't know. I'm not in the industry, but okay. So we're talking about pain points. We're talking about things that are going on. You had a truck company. You did this for a long time. I've heard you tell stories, but cash flow's sometimes a problem, right? Getting paid, maybe uneven scale. This comes in today, but not next week. Whatever the case is, talk about that a little bit.
So I got contracted on with a company back in 2008 with one of my companies, with one division of my trucking company. It was an over-the-road open board, and those truckers will know what that is, and it was a nightmare. For about a year I did that before we got contracted on. I was contracted on with this other company getting paid every week for 6 months before I got my last check. The last company I had, trucking company that I had, actually was, I shut it down about a year and 2 months ago. We decided we were going to shut it down because the freight was just dropping through the floor and wasn't making enough money. So probably, I want to say January, I got a check from a broker still almost 9 months later. So yeah, those brokers will hold you off and hold you off and hold you off and push you out. That's why there's such a big thing for factoring. And what comes into play with factoring? Your credit.
Right. That makes it actually brings up a good point. I'm gonna pivot real quick before we go into these other pain points. I've been promising you guys some tips and some hacks. I'm gonna give you probably, in my opinion, the number one tip that I could give you if you're out there in that industry today. And this is something you can start right now, which is that separation of your personal side of your finance life from your business side of your finance life. Brent's been talking a lot today about how he had to use his own personal credit. He's going through and he had cards that did report, but he wasn't set up. If you get set up correctly from the get-go, or after the fact, through us, we can help you separate your personal from your business by replacing the way you spend your money within your business. Instead of using your debit cards, use cards that you know are going to report that are only tied to your EIN number with your business. That's the biggest tip I could probably give you right now at this juncture, because it makes for a good segue into the next piece. So, we talked about that. You're fighting all these different things: fuel volatility, equipment costs, insurance premiums, access to financing, and things like that. You don't even know from a cash flow perspective whether or not people are going to be getting you paid on time. So then you go into factoring and you're going, hey, I've got all of these things right here. They're going to pay me. Can you give me a loan against it? Now you're just giving up more of that already tight margin. But what about when freight margins compress?
Oh, they are compressed right now. They are
worse. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, when freight margins get compressed, your best scenario is to find a company that you can contract onto that's going to split that gap. You lose out on the high paying loads, but then you stay away from the low paying loads. So you're kind of in the middle. So you're not making huge money, but you're consistent. And that's the best paying loads that I ever found were, we got this, 53-foot trailer full of, cotton balls or whatever. And it has to be in
great load.
It has to be in Dallas tomorrow. And that would pay you more than driving across country from Tulsa.
That's insane.
Because somebody's truck broke down and they need it moved and it needs to be there on time. So it's funny how they'll come out of pocket when it needs to be there on a deadline.
Which kind of tells you, hey,
they got the money to pay.
Yeah, they got the money to pay. They're shortchanged. You guys are getting shortchanged out there.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people when in operating the business? I think people get pigeonholed a lot in any industry that they're in. That ability to look outside and go and be able to do these things.
Yeah, if you're not contracted on with somebody, I would definitely be looking at that. But if that's not your desire, if you want to be your own boss, do your own thing, open board stuff, just really know, what fuel prices are, where they're at. And there are apps. These guys have apps on their phones that tell them what fuel prices are, where they're at. Just making a solid plan and just not out there, just doing work and waiting for the money to come in. I'd say have a solid plan going into it.
So I remember I had a company. Well, we had 6 long haul trucks and I had 7 other vehicles pulling trailers around a previous business iteration. And, we had to keep logbooks and stuff like that. But then these people, they come up with these new rules and they're saying, hey, by the way, Mr. Business Owner, you're going to have to put in ELDs. Who covers that expense?
The trucker does. And you know what? It's not just I got to put this ELD in the truck. And I don't remember how much they were. I had a lot of them. But it's thousands of dollars and then you have to pay a monthly subscription because they require service. And, so and you can only there's certain situations where you can go back to paper logs, but if you're caught doing it when you're not supposed to, you're in trouble. And now you got to fine. And, it's kind of, you say ELDs, but the DOT is making pushes toward, I believe right now, when we were hot shotting, we had to have a forward facing camera. And they were starting to they were going to be requiring driver-facing cameras, which has created a bunch of lawsuits because drivers like, no, they're not going to be looking at me in my cab while I'm sleeping and whatever else. And now there's a new thing, AI cameras that will actually detect if a truck driver is falling asleep, and it will call him to tell him to pull over.
I get a buddy who drives around, does a bunch of stuff for oil refineries and stuff like that. And they just required, and this is all he does. The guy drives probably 14 hours a day. It seems like going from plant to plant, and then he's there. He's always on the road. This company he's worked for years is now requiring forward-facing and driver-facing cameras. Why? Because, they're worried if I answer a phone call or if I glance down at my phone, and some of the people already have it, and the drivers are freaking out. They're saying, the second, if I glance down at my lap or something, or I go over and I grab Cheetos and put them in my mouth, I'm getting a call. I'm getting a call from that department causing problems. But if you're an owner-operator, right, and you got to cover this expense, right, to stay compliant. Maybe this ties back over to the insurance side of things. And that money's coming from somewhere. And if you're already looking at getting factoring and stuff for it, you're going, okay, well, where am I going to get it? What bank? It's going to be Hip National Bank,
Right.
trying to get that money, which kind of goes back to that tip, that hack that I gave you guys. When you set up and you have credit over on your business side, separate from you personally, and you've built it, that could be 5 times, 10 times, 100 times what you could ever have personally. So when these regulators go, hey, here's a new rule, it's going to be great, and if you don't do it, we're going to shut you down, but you get to pay for it.
Right. There's so much regulation when it comes to trucks. I mean, we were just give you another example. I mean, you're talking technology and stuff in trucks, but if you drove across certain states, no matter what time, I'm pretty sure it was no matter what time of year, it might have been just certain months of the year, you're required to carry snow chains through them, and those aren't cheap.
No, they're not.
So, I mean, there's a lot of little things that go into play outside of just normal wear and tear maintenance. And, I guess I could even go back onto the maintenance and say, make sure to keep up with the preventative maintenance, and also check your fluids and grease your fifth wheel, grease your your axles, do everything that you can, because if you're broke down somewhere where your shop's not at, you know what shops think of when they see that? Cha-ching, this guy's stranded, we can charge more. And I've literally drove 4 hours to go work on a truck because the shop was trying to be shady with me. So,
it's crazy. My dad, he drove truck way back, when he was younger. He got out of the service, and it's like, things back then, you could go drive truck, you go logging, you go mining, or you go commercial fishing, right? It was kind of the wild, wild west as related to that stuff. Some people made good money, some people didn't. Some people did it because it was absolutely necessary. My dad had an old white Freightliner, put 1 million miles on it with my mom sitting on an apple crate. They couldn't even afford the passenger seat in it.
Wow.
That's how busted up this thing was. But put 1 million miles on it. My mom sat on an apple crate. And you think about today you got to come in with all this high tech electronics and all these different things, and you get to pay for it. It's almost like we're trying to cut out the guy because you're the little guy. We're just going to make it so tough for you to do business. We're going to make it so restrictive for you to even be successful. And any moniker of success you have, we're going to grab that back with our laws, our rules, and restrictions, and make it impossible for you to succeed.
Yeah, and they have going to that point. I know taxes is on here. You have the International Fuel Tax Agreement where you've got to track your miles, which is funny enough. When I first started doing trucking, it was all on paper, and that was a nightmare to track. And then you had to go manually input it in their system. Now they have systems that automatically track it for you when you fill up and everything, which is phenomenal. But you got to maintain those dollars to be able to pay into the states where maybe you didn't buy fuel that you ran across. And then and then also you have the federal excise tax on the trucks, a heavy use tax. If you're hauling if you're an 18-wheeler, you're going to pay at least $2,000. I think it might be $1,200 or $2,200 a year per truck to be on the road. And they also have those on the trailer. So then you get your truck and your trailer, you're paying that heavy use tax on it. And it's supposedly going to repair the roads. I don't know what roads are getting repaired by that dollar, but.
So let me ask you this. So, hey, it's unable to play the video. Thank goodness. I was getting tired of that anyway. No, but let me ask you this. So if you were to take all the people that drive truck that are out there doing this grind, right? They're the highway cowboys. They're running all out there. How many of them you reckon were, when they're approaching their career saying, I can either drive truck or I can be a CPA. I love both. Do I want to do taxes for a living, or do I want to drive a truck? And they would just went, I'll just drive the truck. Do you think there's a lot of those? I
would say there's probably more than you think.
No.
I love driving, myself.
Did that wanted to be CPAs?
Oh, no.
Come on now.
Now I want to be CPAs.
So now you're driving a truck and you're going, oh yeah, taxes and all these things that you just talked about. Yep. If you aren't up to speed on that, you better know somebody, right?
Well, so again, there's always something to get in the pockets of the truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
There are companies that will help you with all your all your legal documents and everything else to get you on the road, but they got to have their skin in the game, right? So they get a sliver. And I mean, there's so much that comes out that guys don't think about when they first start it, and then they like go out and think they're gonna make a couple $100,000 that first year. Some do phenomenal, but there's a lot more that get in that first year and something happens and they're just like, I don't know what to do, so they went back to work for somebody else.
Yeah, they're here and they're gone. I was, when I was doing this research, right, when we were getting ready for this episode, I was literally looking at this stuff and I'm like, did we tailor build tryturing for truckers? Was that what we did? Because it seems like we solve almost every single problem there. The taxes and the bookkeeping. We have every connection under the sun. If you're a tryturing member, you don't have to vet it. You don't have to look it up. It's there.
Yeah, it's it's kind of funny. It's really geared toward every business, but not.
It is,
but it's really good for trucking.
When you really start honing in, you're going, these are the problems they're facing. I can solve them.
Yeah,
I can solve. Don't do that.
I know. I was going.
Don't
to.
do it. I know
ready.
you're fighting to. Hey, look. So we've talked about a lot of stuff, and like we get down here, and they're going, oh, credit profile issues. We already know, right? We already know if you're operating your business and you're operating on your personal credit's yo-yoing left and right. And when you need money, your credit's not up here, it's down here, right? And that's the least likelihood of you getting it. So then you end up into this predatory situation where they're going, yeah, I'll give you some money, man. I'll give you some money.
Yeah,
Tell you what, though.
What's your profit a week?
Yeah, what's your profit?
$400 a week. Yeah, that's what we're going to have.
Give me access to your bank account. Give me access to your bank. I'll give you the money, but I'm going to take it out.
Yeah.
Right? It's such a sad state of affairs. It's like, how does a person even survive? I built businesses 37 years, and I've just watched it get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, which is why we built this company, so that people that have that entrepreneurial spirit, that have that dream, can actually get these Wall Street advantages, these elite advantages that they keep away from all of us, right?
Yep.
So,
yeah, and the funny part is that when somebody gets in that desperate situation where they're needing funding, they look at all those text messages, emails, and phone calls they get of people that are trying to scam them, and they get suckered into one of them because it sounds good.
Well, because they're in the bottom of the trough. Yeah. They need it. Yeah. They're like, oh, it's an epiphany. You called me at the right time. Thank you. Right. They don't ever do the normal call. They're like, yeah, Mr. Brent, I have your file in front of me. We already have your pre-approval for $284,000. I just had a couple follow-up questions for you. If you'd like to go ahead and proceed, we have your file. Press 2, and boom, they got you.
What's funny, and I never really thought of it this way, but everything that we do with helping people and how we vet people, and I never sat with somebody, and we both sat with this gentleman last week, but to be very skeptical when talking to people that loan money, like we're going to sell his information, and
it's bad.
It is bad. And
it's bad.
We don't like the calls. We don't want the calls. We're not going to make you get the calls.
We're in the industry and we get the calls, right? And I oh no, dog. But we have reps all over the country, so. Oh, why is New York calling me? I wonder who that one was. And he asked me, like, yeah, hi, I've got your file right in front of me. We have $500,000. Are you still ready for that? I'm like, what are you talking about? We didn't apply. We didn't apply for money. That's for doggone sure. So we've racked through it. Like, if you guys are sitting there watching, I guarantee you've been sitting there going, yeah, dude, this is a problem. Let's give them some cool solutions outside of tryturing. Again, look, we get it. We love our company. We love what we do. We know that it works. We've helped thousands of people in your exact same situation change their business trajectory. But let's talk about some practical tips and hacks that we can give to them. You come from the industry.
I would say probably the biggest tip, and this could go to any business owner, not just trucking, but it's understanding you don't know what you don't know. And to go out and seek help with things you don't know, because you'd rather have it done right than not have it done at all. And that's something that I never, all the years of owning a business, I never hired a consultant. I didn't even know there were consultants. And maybe it's just recently that they blew up. But when I had the $6 million trucking company, I think I could have had a whole lot of things. I know I could have had a whole lot of things different. Had I known about the corporate credit, had I known about, different kinds of tax prep work, all these different things, I could have, we made pretty good money when we were running that company. I could have made even more money if I'd known a lot of these things. So just figuring out where to invest your time and your dollars and find the right people to connect with.
I had a guy tell me once, that it actually wasn't this long ago, and it was such an interesting moment because I really thought about it. And I was talking to him about the things that we provide, and he goes, "Well, who was your coach?" And I said, "Well, my dad was my coach, smartest business person that I know, but I've spent years going and learning from other coaches and throughout my career." And he goes, "Great, you're hired." I said, "Just like that?" And he goes, "I would never accept coaching from somebody who hasn't been coached." Right?
Yeah.
And we've certainly been coached. We try to help you. We try to help you. We try to bring value. But the reality is, this isn't just something that we went and figured out on our own. We've got years of being coached and learning and progressing into this. I would say, if I was to throw out another tip, like I talked about that separation, but shop your insurance annually, every year. Hold their feet to the fire. Make them prove their value to you and say, "I'm going to shop you." You'd be surprised how many people will say, "Well, hold on. Let me see what else I can do." But check your insurance annually. They get you, and you think that it's something that you don't have to worry about. "Well, I've got my insurance. I'm good. I don't want to mess with it." It's not that big a lift to get that stuff flopped and changed. Shop it. Somebody wants your business, and somebody's going to value it.
I got something on that too. When you're first starting out, don't get a 12-month policy. It might be a lesser rate for the 12-month policy. Get a 6-month policy and then shop it in 6 months, because once you have 6 months history, the rate will be less.
Oh, it's even better. Yeah. So you can do that.
Yep.
And then it's 6-month policy. See, here it comes. Coached by coaches, right? How many people do you think are actually negotiating their loads? I mean, really getting in there and negotiating their loads and treating it like a business?
A lot do when it comes to dealing with brokers, because again, when you get contracted on, you're skipping a broker. So like, let's say you get contracted on with Walmart. You go straight to Walmart. You're not going to, and they have their whole division of their company that put out loads and everything else. If Walmart was hiring a freight broker, Walmart's paying a freight broker. A freight broker is going to try to hire you for as least amount of dollars as he can.
Mm-hmm.
What I always try to do was do my break even per mile, my I'm okay per mile,
right?
I'm excited per mile, and I'm making great money per mile. Know those per mile dollars, and it's not just, you don't just figure that out today and that's your deal for the year. You've got to recalculate that based on how fuel is, how your truck maintenance costs go up and down. It's something you really need to keep track of all the time.
Okay, I'm going to give them probably my most valuable tip of the day as it relates to business. This is an absolute, if you're in business today with the tools that are available, people should be doing this. If you're dealing with contracts, if you're dealing with factoring or somebody sending you a contract, what I want you to do is take that contract, copy paste it, or if it's a PDF, drop it into ChatGPT. Here's what you ask ChatGPT. Please read the contract, create a summary, and point out any areas where I might end up having difficulty going forward, and outline how I should respond in that contract. GPT will break the whole thing down and it'll give you a whole summary list. You can literally direct it and actually recreate the aspects that you want changed in the contract, and it will give you the information that you need behind that specific issue to know what you're actually looking at. So ask for a summary, then ask it to identify any areas where it may cost you down the road or maybe a problem. You can speak to it almost just like we're speaking right now, but it's a tool that's available, and if you're not using it in your daily lives, you're opening yourselves up for problems. Take advantage of it.
That's a good one. That is very good. I mean, we use it a lot every day.
We use it for everything. Yeah. I mean, we have the top coup de grace, but it's such a great tool. Yeah. If you're not using it today to protect yourself, shame on you. It's all of these things come into play. But that's the type of stuff that when you have conversations with us, and look, you can go down below this video, you can click and you can get in contact with us. We're happy to talk to you. These are the value pieces that Tryturing brings to the table for all of our clients and that we can continually bring to the table.
Yep. I wanted to make sure I mentioned this earlier, but we really never got to a point to. Not really a tip, but we should announce our partnerships that our Director of Business Development, Sturdy.
Hold on. If you really wonder whether or not we're involved in this side and that we have your back, Brent's going to tell you about some of the partnerships that we just firmed up. They're really exciting. You're going to recognize them, but this is why tryturing should be a part of your life. Go ahead, Brent.
All right. So we partnered up with the California Trucking Association. I'm actually doing a webinar on the 17th of next month for their entire group. I think it's like 2,200 truck drivers or something like that. The Western States Trucking Association, Utah Trucking Association, African American Women Trucking Association all partner with us in the past week and a half because they see the value in what we're doing and how we're going to help those truckers.
We now have colleges asking us. We've been working on the curriculum for entrepreneur side to add this to part of their syllabus. We have multiple colleges that we're dealing with right now. There's so many different things that come into play when you can show people a path that changes the trajectory of their life, but really solidifies their position and creates longevity for them in their entrepreneurial journey. You've changed the game. And that's what Brent and I have done here with tryturing. That's why we spend the time every week to bring this kind of information to you. Brent, do you have any closing comments as it relates to trucking and things we talked about today?
I don't have any other than just, if you're out there driving on the road right now, listen, be safe.
All right, that's perfect. So today on GrindWise, we talked to you about a lot of the pain points that you're facing in your own business and how you can actually solve for those pain points and had good discussion about it. We also provided you some hacks and some tips that you should be using in your daily life. Look, if you haven't already done it, make sure you go down below this video here. Get in contact with us. We can send you some resources, a free ebook. We can also arrange for a free consultation. Again, deal with coaches who have been coached, people that have walked in the shoes that you've walked in yourself. But today on GrindWise, we appreciate you taking the time to look, watch, and share with us in the comments what you're thinking. Make sure you follow us for more content, and we'll see you next time here on GrindWise. I'm Erle, this is my partner Brent, and we're out.